Joining us now, Democratic strategist and co-founder of Lift Our Voices, Julie Rodzinski, and Mara Gillespie, founder and principal of BlueStack Strategies and former press advisor to then House Speaker John Boehner. Thank you both for being here. Julie, because this is what they were talking about, we are going to go straight to this. There are few places that the Democrats have power because they lost the House and the Senate. This is one of them. With this bill, they're trying to do a 6-month stopgap bill. It's already passed in the House, all Republican votes. And now the Dems have a chance to stop it. But will they end up being blamed for shutting down the government? Because Republicans are already pushing that.
I'll tell you something. The Republicans passed this bill, the House passed this bill, and then went home because they didn't want negotiation. They didn't want Democrats to have any say in this. They presented it to the Senate and said, take it or leave it, even as this president is effectively destroying the federal government in pursuit of whatever agenda he and Elon Musk have. If the Democratic Senate acquiesces to this and allows Republicans to get away with this, the anger in the Democratic grassroots is going to be so huge that I truly worry for them that they're going to be primaried. So if I were the Democrats right now in the Senate, I would think very carefully about the fact that rather than bailing out the Republicans again, because Republicans consistently screw things up and then assume that Democrats are going to bail them out, they need to have a very serious chat with John Thune and say, look, you're in charge. Your counterpart in the House presented us this you-know-what sandwich. We're not going along with it. And if you want to have a serious discussion, pass a short-term continuing resolution so we could have a serious bipartisan negotiation about what this funding plan looks like. If they don't do that, I don't know what they're doing governing, because they're just basically handmaidens to the Republicans if they go along with this.
Mara, I do want to ask you about some new CNN polling that shows that concerns about the economy have grown in the past, the first few months of Trump's return to office. And most Americans see his policies of having hurt economic conditions. How is he going to deal with this? About half of the public says that they think Trump's policies have worsened the economy and their own economies.
Donald Trump is mainly concerned with his MAGA supporters. So for him, and again, we have to remember that the things that would maybe sway President Trump during his first term, that being the stock market, that being public opinion, polls perhaps like this, that would have maybe caused him to take not a step back, but a repositioning. He's a lame duck president now, and his focus is on getting his agenda done, him steamrolling through and saying that he knows better on how to govern. It's why the House is largely stepped in line behind him. They are going to do what he says. They're not going to move unless he says move. So I think that Julie's point is founded in that Democrats, this is their leg to stand on, except for the fact they don't have a leg to stand on, and there's no plan. We're at the 11th hour. The shutdown is happening tomorrow, and the hypocrisy of espousing, concerns about federal workers being laid off, and then to go turn around and cause a furlough for 900,000, as Kate pointed out earlier in the segment. Those are going to be ripe for ads come midterms, also damaging to the country, also damaging to federal workers.
Yeah, and DOJ's role in all this has been quite unpopular. I do want to ask you, because Mara just brought up that President Trump is a lame duck president. He cannot run again unless, of course, there is a change to the Constitution. What do you think of someone else who is looking at the presidency and potentially running in 2028, Governor Gavin Newsom? He's made some rather interesting moves that may upset the base, the Democratic base. He has been talking to Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon, going on a podcast between the two of them, talking about different things. Is this something that's going to help him? They gain conservative? What's the point of all this?
Yeah, I don't know who he thinks the Charlie Kirk wing of the Republican primary electorate is, but I can guarantee you it doesn't exist. And look, if he had, I actually got the transcript of that podcast and read all of it. Yeah. I could see if he were actually pushing back on Charlie Kirk and showing Democratic voters how he can take the fight to MAGA. But he wasn't really doing that. He was kind of fanboying over Charlie Kirk, telling Charlie Kirk how much his 13-year-old son loved him, not pushing back on all the things that Charlie Kirk was saying, which was the typical nonsense that Charlie Kirk says every day. And so from that perspective, if that's how he thinks Democrats want to see their prospective presidential candidates behave, I don't think that's accurate. I think they want to see somebody who can take the fight to MAGA, not somebody who's going to invite MAGA in and have a polite discussion where somebody from MAGA is going to use the same kind of MAGA tactics that they've used all along. And Gavin Newsom, like a good host, sits there and says, oh, okay, all right, I see your point there. I don't think this is where Democratic primary voters are right now. I think there is a huge misunderstanding among our leaders most of our leaders, not all of them, about how absolutely enraged and angry Democrats are, not just at what Trump is doing, but at how little fight their leaders are showing in standing up for our country and our Constitution. And so, my advice to the next person who wants to do what Gavin Newsom is doing is fight. Don't have polite discussions with people who want to burn everything down. Fight.
Yeah, it was chummy with Steve Bannon as well, when Steve says, we disagree on the 2020 election. Steve Bannon obviously believing the lie that Trump won the election, and it was just kind of a chatty talk. It was interesting to see what he's doing. And Maura, I just want to get your thoughts on this. Would conservatives consider Gavin Newsom, because he's going on these different podcasts and being chummy with some of these very far-right figures?
I highly doubt it. You can just point back to his championing for Biden and then Harris throughout the recent election. But I also just think that it's a bad look for him. I mean, California's got tons of problems going on, and you're sitting around chumming it up with someone who denied the 2020 election, who helped spur what happened on January 6th. So I just think it's really, if I'm a California voter, I'm embarrassed by what Gavin Newsom is doing. Regardless of where you sit on the political aisle, I'd be embarrassed by what he's doing, using his time to do this podcast with people who are unserious and spread conspiracy theories. That's not helpful to the California people to lower their taxes, to lower their costs. He's not doing his job.
We will wait and see what the American public decides and what he decides when it comes to running potentially for president. Julie Roginski and Maura Gillespie, thank you both so much. Appreciate it.